Hello family, it's African Esquire and I'm here with a new video. This week we got some very unfortunate news about the murder of 6 Black children by their adoptive parents, their adoptive moms. They were adopted by a lesbian white couple. And it turns out that one of those children who were murdered was a boy named Devonte Hart. And many of you may have remembered during the Ferguson protests, there was a picture that went viral around the internet and was really promoted by white media entities of a young Black boy who was hugging an officer who was giving away free hugs. And he was crying while he hugged the officer. And this was a picture taken and circulated by many of the media outlets. Why it was circulated or what it was supposed to represent. I guess it was supposed to represent racial reconciliation. It was supposed to be some type of hope to the guilt complex, I think, of a lot of white America surrounding issues of police brutality. And we never really got a good explanation of this boy or anything about him or where he came from, why he might have been crying. And I want to give so much props to Tariq Nasheed, who has just been posting about this story. So much information that we really weren't given by the mainstream media outlets about this boy. He's been posting disturbing videos that were taken of this boy that showed that his crying was not just him wanting to reconcile with white police officers. In fact, I don't think it had anything to do with that. It turns out this boy was very much traumatized by something. We don't know his whole history, but we know that he was a child that was abused. He was a child that was neglected. And what he was essentially showing was not anything about racial reconciliation, but was really a cry for help. So Tariq, he posted 2 videos that I seen. And the first that I seen that he posted was a video, and you should go to his Twitter and look at the video, but he posted a video of this boy, and there was some type of odd singing going on with this boy, with a guy on a mic, a white guy who was singing some type of chant or something. And the little Black boy, the same boy in the picture, who has his hair cut up inside of like words on his head. He's wearing a outfit that's, I think it was like a cow print outfit. It looked like he was at a Halloween party or something. He goes up to this white man and hugs him, and is in the same exact way as he did that officer, and was just holding this man who's singing and playing a guitar. It was the weirdest thing I've seen in a minute. And so we know that he goes up to strangers, really, and hugs them. And then Tariq also posted a video of this boy dancing in his underwear. Supposedly the video was taken by one of his moms, and this little boy is in his underwear is doing some really weird exotic dance. And what the red flags that are raised right now is what was going on in that house. Was there some type of pedophilia going on? Was there some type of sex cult type thing going on with these children? Were these children being sexualized? It really looked like a sexualized video of this young boy. So what we do know for sure, though, is that, and this story broke my heart when I read it, that the boy was, previous to his mom's killing him, the family was being investigated for child neglect. And one reason is because the same boy, Devonte, would supposedly go to neighbors and ask them, do you have food? Like, ask them for food. And so probably was malnourished and starving. So the image of a young child, young Black boy going to different people and asking for food, that image is just so hurtful to me. And it's so disturbing, and it's common that our children are being abused inside of this type of way. So I think I want to talk about in regard to this story, there's so many ways you can look at it. The fact that the media was so quick to jump on this image of this boy and portray it as him wanting to reconcile with these officers and not understanding that this is a whole victim of sexual abuse potentially. And we know he was a victim of abuse, neglect. Something was going on in that house and would eventually be murdered by his parents. But outside of that, we have to understand this is not the first time this has happened. There's been so many stories of foster parents, adoptive parents, both in the Black community and outside of the Black community, adopting or bringing these Black children into their homes and essentially victimizing them, doing horrible things to where the child would have been better off had they been left in the foster system. And this is something I'm very sensitive to because, I mean, even my father, he was a foster child, and he's told me some of the horrific things that he's dealt with as a foster child. And the issue comes down to us realizing as African people, this is just not in America, because you also see the same things happening in places like Haiti, where they were adopting Black children and doing sexualized things with them. You see the same thing happening in Africa. People will bring over an African child and do things with those child, abuse those children. The fact is that whenever you are a colonized people and you are powerless people, the people who suffer the most is always going to be the children. Children are already the most vulnerable population in any society. So understand that whenever we are essentially a people who are powerless, who can have people go into your community, do whatever you want with you, rape your community, hurt your community, do whatever they want, you're leaving the children as the most vulnerable people. Unfortunately for the Black community, the African community, we are very much unorganized. We're unorganized to prevent these types of invasions. We're unorganized to prevent this type of abuse happening to our children. We're unorganized as a community, but the community, of course, is also made up of families. So whenever you have a breakdown inside of the Black family, you're essentially leaving your child to the wills, the wants, the desires of your oppressor, who can do whatever they want with your child, so if they so please. And we see this over and over again. Our children are so vulnerable. Our children are vulnerable to abuse. They're vulnerable to addiction. They're vulnerable to murder. They're vulnerable to violence. Our children are essentially the ultimate victims inside of this whole thing of white supremacy, because they're the ones that are left out without parents. They're the ones that are left out without role models. They're left without protection to deal with this ginormous system that is essentially set up to kill them. So we have to take this as a call, I think, to understand that until we get organized as a community, until we get organized as a family, and which develops into an organization of a community, this can happen anytime that our children are left out and we are unable to take care of them. The village mentality has completely broken down inside of the Black community. The idea that even if let's say someone has a mental issue, or someone has some type of sickness and ailment and they cannot take care of their children, there should be 5 other people willing and ready to back you up and take your child. There should be no reason why your child has to be sent away to strangers, or especially people outside of the community, because whenever you have people outside of the community, you always have to be suspicious of what's their agenda, what are they trying to get out of this. I think it's so interesting that, as I said, Devonte and his siblings, they were adopted by a lesbian white couple, and the couple were essentially something I very much disagree with, regardless of how you feel about any political issue. The idea of having children be paraded as a symbol inside of your political issue when they haven't even developed the ability to have their own opinions on certain things, I never really liked that. So supposedly they would have them at rallies supporting their love, and also they would have them at Bernie Sanders rallies, just trying to make these children a politicized symbol. Like, okay, we're white, we're lesbian, so we're progressive. Not only are we progressive for that reason, we're progressive for adopting these Black children, and we adopted this whole family just to keep them together. Therefore, let these children be a symbol of some type of racial and post-bigotry symbol in this society, to show that, we could do this, we could do that. To me, when you're so young and you have people using you as that type of symbol, when you haven't even gotten to the point where you can have your own independent opinion, I think that's wrong. And let it be known, I view that as wrong on multiple fronts. I don't like when I see children at the Republican convention speaking for their speaking for something that their parents essentially told them to speak for when they haven't made their own opinions. I don't like seeing children at the Democrat convention saying things. It's different if the child comes to an independent belief on something, but when a child is too young to have come to that belief on their own and they're being paraded as some type of civil rights activists for something that they really don't know about, I don't like that, because it essentially strips them of their autonomy, strips them of having the luxury of uncovering different things on their own. And it's not to say you shouldn't educate your children, but I think you should educate, this is my personal opinion, I think you should educate children in a way where they're not only hearing one side of the story, because obviously we're teaching our children how to deal with racism, how to deal with different issues of bigotry, but you're also opening their mind up to the fact that there are counter arguments. My personal belief, if you don't question a belief that you have, you do not believe it. You cannot say, oh, I just believe this is what it is. And if someone says, well, what about this? Oh, I don't want to think about that. I just want to believe it. If you believe it, that means that you've challenged it and you came to an independent assessment on your own. So in a similar way, if you're telling a child, the reason why Trump needs to be president is because he's going to secure our country, he's going to get rid of the rapists, he's going to do this, do that, and a third, and you're telling a child that who has not developed the ability to question what you're saying, I do view that as morally wrong. So I'm not saying I know exactly what these mothers did, but at least from the picture of it, it seems that they were using these children for some type of political agenda without the children actually, I mean, some of them were really young from what I could see in the picture, without the children being able to actually develop their own independent thoughts or actually advocate for what they believe in. So understanding that whenever we're not organized, our families aren't organized, not only and when I say family, even if you don't have a big family, you should have people in your lives who could essentially help raise your children, who could help you develop, be a connection to you, be a support to you. But when we don't have these supports and we don't have these families, we leave our children open to these type of abuses. So I just ask that in Devonte's memory, that we remember that there are many children like Devonte, and there's going to continue being a cycle of many children like Devonte, especially the way that the system of white supremacy is set up to oppress our people to the point where we don't have the means to take care of ourselves and don't have the means to take care of our children. So understanding that this is a continual cycle, this should be a story that causes us to feel convicted enough to do something, to get organized as a people and get organized as a community in our individual communities all over the United States or all over the world, but also as a community globally. Because again, if we are not built to protect our children, we leave them open to all of these abuses. So that's my opinion on Devonte and his tragic story. I would love to see your thoughts. Again, Tariq Nasheed posted, in fact, I'll embed the video and I'll leave it in the description box so you can see. He posted 2 very disturbing videos about of this child, and I seen it last night. I seen the first one last night, and it really just stuck with me the whole night. And then this morning I see the next one, and it's like just ridiculous that this child was sustaining this much trauma, and all the while white America was pretending that this is going to be a symbol of racial reconciliation, because that's how the white guilt complex works. It works to look for these types of individual instances and paint the picture of what they wanted to say instead of what it's actually saying. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to see your comments, and I will see you all in another video.